Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are joining us from, and welcome to the second of these CJ Cinema Summits, which are brought to you by Celluloid Junkie in partnership with The Big Picture and Film Grail. Chances are that you are watching it from home, and your home might very well be your office now, because the biggest change in this week is probably the completely unprecedented lockdowns, isolation orders, and shelter in place commands that have been sent out, which means that roughly a third of the world's population now is told to stay where they are in order to fight the coronavirus epidemic. But there's also a chance that you could be, as a part of the cinema community, facing unemployment, and that there's an uncertainty about the future of your company and the business. This is the big topic that we're going to be addressing today. But before we get on to that and other things, just very briefly, I want to run through the agenda and the housekeeping rules. I want to thank you first of all for everyone attending this session and the last session. We had tremendous feedback from that session, and we've tried to make it a better and more polished presentation this time. You will notice the green background is gone. Nobody's going to miss that, I think. And we're also going to try to keep it tighter for 60 minutes because we realize that you do have other things to do with your time. But we've added another function this week, which is that after we wrap up at the end of the 60 minutes, we're going to leave the forum open for an additional 30 minutes where you can chat and have exchanges directly without having to look or hear from us. One of the messages that came back loud and clear from last week is the fact that you really valued the fact that this is a community where you could speak to each other directly, communicate with each other. So we want to create that opportunity for you to have that. I also want to mention the fact that we have a new communities section, which you can find if you go online under community.cjsummit.com. And that's where we'll be posting things and keeping this discussion alive in between the weekly sessions. If you have feedback or comments, we welcome that. Send it by email to us using the email tips@celluloidjunkie.com. And we're also going to have and make sure that we've got enough time this session for a Q&A discussion at the end of it. If you have questions, don't write them in the comments section, please. We would ask that you would put them in the special Q&A tab, which you'll find to the right of it. That way we can find them without scrolling back and address them, and maybe address them even before we get to the end of it. So please use the comments section, but also please use the Q&A section. Now, the big subject for this week is going to be the question of staffing. Staffing has become a very hot topic in the last 7 days. Because of the fact that several high-profile exhibitors obviously had to make some difficult decisions. And we know this is a difficult subject, and we know that there are no easy choices for any company to make in the current situation. And we also know that when we mentioned what we were going to be discussing, a lot of people turned to us and said that they wouldn't go on camera to discuss this, precisely because of the sensitivity. But we're very fortunate in that the two people that we reached out to first both agreed to come on and talk to us about this. So we'll be very pleased to later on in the show to introduce Mariam and Debbie to talk about the subject with us. But before we do that, we're going to have a quick overview of the global news and roundups related to the coronavirus impact of the cinema industry. And to do that, I'm going to welcome my fellow co-hosts and guests, Sperling Reich. Hi, Sperling.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. And on the line, we also have Rob Arthur joining us by telephone, because it turns out that it's not just toilet papers that sell out in shops, it's also webcams. How are you, Rob?
I'm absolutely fine, but indiscreet.
Anyway, it's good to have you on, even as a disembodied voice in this section. So as before, we're going to quickly do a global overview of really cinema closures and openings, what are happening with the films, some of the major trade show announcements, global initiatives in terms of government support. We had the $2 trillion US congressional support package, and looking at some other related events before we get on to. Starting off, first of all, with cinema closures and openings, it has been another tough week. What was previously territories that managed to keep the projector light going, unfortunately, we saw them having to switch off those projectors and power down. Territories such as Latin America started going dark. We had the whole of Australia and New Zealand had to shutter their cinemas. Even territories that kept going, primarily in Asia, where South Korea and Japan flew the flag. In South Korea, we just had the announcement today that a third of the cinemas belonging to CGV have to now close operation temporarily. And in Japan, the major cinema chains Toho and Sunshine Cinema announced that they will be closing their cinemas for the weekend. So they're not shut completely, but they are going out. Sperling, can you add anything more to that? I mean, I see you're pulling up the feeds from those various announcements.
No, I mean, the only thing I could add is that in South Korea previously they were already dropping to record lows. Australia, which remained open until this past week, their box office was plummeting anyway. So even though they were open, it didn't really matter because the box office was negligible.
And I suppose at some point you come to a equilibrium or below an equilibrium where it actually costs more to keep them running if nobody's showing up to see them than it is to mothball them for a certain period. And I guess that's what we're seeing a combination of now in some of these territories. It's not all doom and gloom, however. The good news is that in China, we now have over 500 screens that are active. Now, these are screens that are primarily located in regions, outlying regions that weren't so much impacted by the coronavirus. It also means that they haven't had huge admissions. I think they're averaging about 1 ticket sales per screening. But it's the beginning of something. And what we're seeing more is the fact that they are thinking it through and they have a lot of plans for how to welcome people back. Everything from rescue packages from cinemas to procedures about how to space out the seating, how to have temperature checks on patrons arriving, but also coordinated campaigns. And only this weekend, we found out that there are now plans for cinemas in Shanghai to open from the 28th because the tickets are already selling. And you might not have heard of Jiangsu, but it's a province north of Shanghai where over 1,000 cinemas will be opening this weekend. So don't be deceived by the fact that we are seeing very small box office numbers coming out of China at the moment, less than around 17,000, I think it was. But it's only the start of something, really. And it is going to grow significantly when there are more titles coming online and when people become more confident about coming back out. So this is kind of the good news and bad news situation on the cinema front.
Well, and it's noted that what is going on in China is they are showing some re-releases. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a film that's, I don't know, maybe even close to like 15, 20 years old. And the cinemas are keeping 100% of the box office. Green Book is being released as well. Again, Capernaum, again. That was one of the most successful films in Chinese history, Chinese cinema history. So those films are being re-released in cinemas, and the cinemas are keeping 100% of the grosses. I guess you can do that. China Film Group is the one that's doing that, and that is a government-backed organization. Did you want to show Marcelo's video?
Why don't we cue up Marcelo's clip and then go to Rob as well to wrap up the thing on cinema openings and closings. So we're going to be showing a clip now from Marcelo in Lima in Latin America.
Right, and as I pull his clip up, I guess I will tell you, well, I'll just play it first.
Well, hello guys, how are you? My name is Marcelo Lima from Tonks, a consulting company to talk about cinema technologies for cinema, for exhibition, distribution, and production here in Brazil and South America. So the problem that we are facing here is almost the same as the entire Occident that we have. So all the movie releases were delayed, even the domestic movies. Because of that, all the cinemas had to shut down. Even all the cinemas outside the the epicenter of the coronavirus issue, such as northeast and north side of the country. And we are talking about something like 40% of the market share of the cinemas. But they also had to shut down just because there is no movie to release. So it's a little issue for that. The expectation to reopen the cinemas is only at the end of May, and all the exhibitors are expecting that 100% of the cinemas will be running until the end of July. But there is a little worry about that. Is that because many cinemas won't come back. Probably they are going to be bankrupt until there. So the pessimistic prevision is that only 2,500 of the cinemas will reopen. Right now we have 3,500. So the expectation, the most pessimistic expectation is that we are going to lose 1,000. From my point of view, it's too much. I believe something between 100 and 500 cinemas won't come back because they already have some problem with payments and they don't have a very good box office on that. So they are going to use as a excuse of coronavirus, and they will close. There are other problems with this.
Right, we're going to cut from that. Rob, cutting to you, that is grim news about the fact not just that we have closures, but we also might see permanent closures. And I guess we're seeing that in other parts of the world, including close to home for you.
Yeah, I think there's if I run through the world at the moment, I've been in regular contact with Village in Australia. They're really they were keen to find out what was happening elsewhere so they could make contingencies, but it's come very fast. Eastern Europe, Central Europe, again, very challenged. I know they'll be on the call today, but that's a challenge. And I think there's another piece. I was speaking to Jean-Marie Dura in Paris, and it's interesting that those territories that have local content capacity will probably come out of this quicker and better initially, because the US is, I guess, just moving into earlier phases around about closures. Yeah, we've seen some of those in Europe, and there's been marginal territories or cinemas, Spain, Germany, particularly. And I guess I'd raise this piece around rent and loans. And I'm using the word loans because that's the term that's being used. It's not taking away the entire liability from the operators. It's still something that the operators will have to carry the burden of going forward.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good point, actually, about the importance of local content, because obviously in China, they have a backlog of blockbusters that didn't go out over Chinese New Year. So they don't have to wait for Hollywood to bring out the big releases. They can actually fill the cinemas in the meantime. And Sperling, this really takes on to the next point about film releases, film delays, film streaming. I'd really want to hear from you, but to me, it seems like there's a bit of a sigh of relief that there hasn't been more announcements about films not going to the cinema, but bypassing cinemas and going online instead.
Well, right. And I guess, I guess there is some good news, you could say, because I guess Onward was released VOD. That was something that nobody was really expecting. And to Disney's credit, they did not really tout, unlike, say, The Invisible Man, which was actually, they had a whole television advertising campaign behind it. But there were films that we all knew had been moved. So No Time to Die, Peter Rabbit 2, they had been redated for later in the year. Universal moved Fast and Furious 9 to 2021. But of course, now Minions 2 has been delayed. No date as of yet. This is something that the release schedule will be affected for at least a year, possibly even 2 years. Once films start reopening, possibly June, July, August timeframe, all of these films are going to be shifted. Now, Disney actually has been quite proactive. They've already delayed Black Widow, Mulan, The New Mutants, The Personal History of David Copperfield, The Woman in the Window. A Quiet Place 2, of course, was already moved back, but to an unknown date from Paramount. Paramount also did something that was kind of interesting. They decided to sell The Lovebirds to Netflix. So this was a movie that starred Issa Rae and Camille Nanjiani, and they didn't really own it outright. So the production company that they were working with sold it to Netflix. It's going to go straight to streaming. That's probably because they looked at the release schedule and said, we have no way of releasing this film in the future. Wonder Woman was probably
Paramount has been dumping films on Netflix that it couldn't really fit in theatrical anyway. So that story did seem like a bit of a nothing burger. But queuing up the next clip, we got the feedback loud and clear from you that you wanted to hear from distributors. And obviously, it'd be reassuring to know that they're not all thinking of bypassing cinemas. So we're very fortunate, and we haven't announced this yet. We've got an exclusive message, which we will only be playing to you who are tuning in live for this. This will not be in the recorded session because it is an exclusive and we only have the live rights to it. So if we can queue up the next clip, Sperling, and if you want to, or actually Rob, if you want to introduce it.
Oh, I press play, so
okay, here we go.
Let me start playing.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew Cripps, President of International Distribution at Warner Brothers, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to extend our warmest wishes on behalf of myself and everybody else at Warner Brothers to all our exhibition partners around the globe. I'm sitting here in uncharacteristically sunny London, working from home. I'm with my family, and I'll be
actually. Why don't you introduce it while I fix the video?
And just wanted, as I said, to take this opportunity. I know this is a really difficult time for everybody around the globe. I've certainly been in international marketing and distribution for probably 35 years.
No, we seem to have lost Andrew. We had him there. Can we get the video back up?
I'll just say a few words, Patrick, on this, because Andrew's been an outstanding contributor to the cinema and film industry over a long number of years, and he's always the first to be able to come forward and give us genuine, honest contributions. He's worked globally, so I think this is a very positive piece to put forward.
Yeah, no, we were super thrilled that he agreed to do this. So let's see if we can queue up and get the rest of the video going.
Let me know when it starts playing on your end because I can't see it.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew Cripps, President of International Distribution at Warner Brothers, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to extend our warmest wishes on behalf of myself and everybody else at Warner Brothers to all our exhibition partners around the globe. I'm sitting here in uncharacteristically sunny London, working from home. I'm with my family, and I'll be here, I guess, for the next few weeks. And, just wanted, as I said, to take this opportunity. I know this is a really difficult time for everybody around the globe. I've certainly been in international marketing and distribution for probably 35 years and have never experienced anything like this, and wanted to extend our sympathies for all the difficulties all our partners are going through. Certainly at Warner Brothers, we've tried to be as supportive as possible, and I hope everybody noted that we redated Wonder Woman 1984 in August. We've still got Tenet sitting in July, and I think we all certainly hope at this point in time that the cinema business will be back to some form of normality at that point in time. We look forward to working with you all. We extend our best wishes and look forward to continuing to collaborate and communicate with you day in and day out. My best to everyone.
Great. Right. Well, thank you to Andrew for that word. And let's see, my microphone's on indeed. Yes. So, Sperling, if you can hear me, I just want to say that it's not only great to hear that, but when we posted and you reposted on CJ's Twitter feed the news that Wonder Woman was going out theatrical and was shifting, I haven't seen so many LinkedIn likes, retweets, posts as anything. I mean, there's really a great amount of relief and love for the fact that a big studio like Warner Brothers is firmly committed to the theatrical window. Oh, Sperling seems to be on mute. I can't hear him. I don't know if other people can.
I'm here.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big films that everybody was wondering what would happen with it, especially with HBO Max being, it was supposed to launch already. I think March 12th was when it was supposed to launch. But I think a lot of people were relieved to see that Warner Brothers was not going to push that to HBO Max to try and get a few additional subscribers.
Yep, that's good news. Now, I'm keen for us to move on because we've got some great guests that I want to cut to, but we've got a couple of topics. First of all, the trade shows. We've had two major events that have also shifted dates, not cancelled, just later in the year. Sperling, do you want to talk us through what's happening in Southern Europe later this summer instead of at the beginning?
Well, it looks like we will not be going to Barcelona in June as we had all expected to. And of course, we all wanted to be there and support Cine Europe when it happens. Film Expo Group and Munich decided to move, for obvious reasons, Cine Europe from June to the first week of August, so August 3rd through 6th, at the same location, Barcelona at the CCIB, the convention center in Barcelona, right there on the beach. And they have already on their website, they've already posted that they will be there August 3rd through the 6th. Of course, speaking of events that happen in the spring and summer, we have the Cannes Film Festival, which is not going to be occurring in May anymore, to nobody's surprise. And I don't know if you can see that I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if that's coming through. Nope. Of course not. Okay. Well, I'm supposed to be showing you some of the joke would have worked better. There is a particular porn site that said, well, if you can't do the do the event in May, we're more than happy to stream it for you because we have the infrastructure to do that, which is very nice of them, but I think Cannes politely declined. They are planning to move into where the Cannes Lion would have been. The Cannes Lion usually takes place opposite and against the against Cine Europe in June. They have moved to October timeframe. So instead, they have Cannes is now moving to June, July timeframe. A lot of people think that's very ambitious and are not sure that it will actually work.
True. It's going to be a busy early autumn, late summer if it does happen. I know that Cine Europe is also trying to figure out a way to avoid clashing with the German Film Messe in Cologne. Ideally, we would like to have two shows and not have them compete against each other. Right. Now on to one of my favorite topics of what's come up in the last week, which is drive-ins. I don't know, Sperling, if you can pull up the article that we had on CJ about drive-ins.
Share my screen.
Yeah, by Karen Krzanovich, our contributor. If not, then go to celluloidjunkie.com and read it. It's a very good one. But drive-ins aren't just a thing in the United States or even in UK. We had a wonderful example from all places, from Norway. So if we can cue up the clip from that, it's a rather endearing interview that our Film Grail colleague Simon did with a cinema operator from, I'm blanking the name now, Lillehammer, famed for the Winter Olympics. Can we play it now?
And I'm going to ask Maria or Simon if they could play that for me.
Okay. Simon and Maria, can you cue it up, please? Okay, bear with us. A few technical issues. We're trying to play it now. excuses for the technical issues. We're having this the first time we're trying to mix in doing some video footage as well. And as you can tell, doesn't always work out as planned, but we're going to see if we can come back to it. If not now, then maybe at the end of this session, because it's a really great clip about how cinemas are embracing this new thing. So finishing up really for the roundup, government initiatives. We've had a big stimulus package passed in the United States. There are other ones also going through in other countries as well. And we had another great article, which again, Sperling, I don't know if you can, no? Are we getting a video? Maybe we are.
Welcome, Clarissa Berg, and thanks for joining us at the CJ Cinema Summit. As the managing director of Lillehammer Cinema, you turned around on a dime and converted the regular 5-screen cinema into a drive-in. Can you tell us a bit about how you managed to do that turnaround so quickly?
So, first of all, we had to ensure that we had the approval of the local health authorities and the crisis team of the municipality of Lillehammer. We described our actions to prevent contamination, and as people will remain inside their cars, and they will have bought their tickets online in advance. They were not only quick to approve this drive-in cinema, they were also pretty enthusiastic. They, as well as we do, consider this a mean to enhance spirits and public health in difficult times.
I'm sure many people now are thinking this is a great idea, but how did you solve it practically?
So further on, we had to rent equipment to set up this drive-in theater. We had to come up with a sponsor to be able to manage the costs. We also had to make sure that the distributors of the movies were able and had enough time to transfer the movies.
In this process, did you face many challenges?
So believe it or not, we didn't face a lot of challenges, really. A lot of positive people coming together and making this work. From the time I sent the request to the local health authorities until we started marketing our events, it took about 24 hours.
That's so inspiring to hear. What movies will you be showing?
We will be showing Disney's Onward, we will be showing Emma, The Farewell, and The Invisible Man.
And how has the reception been?
So the reception from the audience has been amazing. I think that people are thrilled to have something to look forward to in difficult times. And they are thankful that we were able to think outside the box and make quick directional changes.
Amazing, Clarissa. Are you trying out anything else in these challenging times?
So to add on to positive news, yesterday we received approval that we now also will be able to do some private screenings in our theater. So families and people living together will be able to book a screening room of their own.
So how does it add up really? Is it worth it, do you think? I know you're still keeping your staff on in Lillehammer.
A little income is better than none, really. And it will also ensure that we keep in touch with the audience through these difficult times. And the announcement that we are doing this quickly became our most liked post on social media ever, and with good margins. So I wish you all the best of luck out there. Bye.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you to the Film Grail team for pulling that together. And I think that's a lovely way to finish this section really on the global overview, pressing on with time, because we have to get on to the big topic of today's session, which is the issue of staffing. But it seems almost wrong to call it staffing, because what we're talking about here really is people's livelihoods. There are hundreds of thousands of people out there who depend on cinemas, not for entertainment, but for employment, for their job, for being able to pay the next bill. And it's been a tough week for cinemas having to make a decision about what to do about the future and what to do about the staff. And this was illustrated starkly in a clip with Adam Aron, the CEO of AMC Cinemas, being interviewed in several television shows about what they needed to do. This is a clip from one of those shows. If we can cue it up and play it.
I am doing that now.
Joining us now, AMC Entertainment CEO Adam Aron. Adam, what is the very latest number you can give us of people you have had to lay off?
In the United States, 26,000 people. And what's worse, and that's literally 96% of our entire labor force. And what's worse than that, the vast majority of these people are low-income workers in their first jobs, entry-level jobs, entering the workforce. These people live paycheck to paycheck. One of the reasons I'm here today is I'm fighting for these people. We want to make sure that we have an industry for them to come back to, and ours is an industry in real trouble.
You've got more than 1,000 theaters globally, 11,000 screens. How many of them are dark?
All 1,000 theaters in 15 countries are closed. When you said the industry revenues were down 97% on Wednesday, I was wondering where that 3% came from, because all of our theaters shut on Monday night late.
Oh, yeah, 3%. Maybe they're the little independents, who knows? But the National Association of Theater Owners, that's the trade group representing your industry, has apparently already asked the federal government for loan guarantees. I saw in recent filings you had, and you can correct me, but $265 million in cash on the books. How soon before that runs dry?
Well, actually, if you look back to the most recent public announcement, which is December 31, AMC, we're a pretty large company. We're the largest theatrical exhibitor in the world, largest in the U.S., largest in Europe. We had about $600 million of liquidity. That's a lot of money, except we have fixed costs to be in business every single week. And you can be sure we are doing everything in our power to lower those fixed costs. But we literally do not have a penny of revenue coming in. Our company was an immensely healthy company 3 weeks ago. And we've moved to crisis literally overnight as the U.S. and Europe are essentially in lockdown.
Adam,
And so in other interviews, he talked about the fact that their running costs per week are $30 million. So when you look at Cineworld or Odeon, which is also AMC, 26,000 employees, zero revenue, zero euros, dollars, pounds, it doesn't matter. No revenue at all, $30 million in running expenses that they can't get rid of.
And since that clip went out, in fact, we had further news from AMC that there's been a furlough of all the senior management as well, which means they're effectively being put on unpaid vacation. Not sure when they will return. So it got worse. But there is good news too. In fact, we saw this week announcement that Regal employees were going to be fast-tracked for employment by the supermarket chain Albertson. They didn't even have to go through an interview to qualify for work of helping pack groceries. And also in the Gulf region, we had employees for Vox who are being moved to Carrefour because of the shared parent company. And this is a very nice segue to our two guests that we can finally welcome to this discussion. So we've got two of the most amazing cinema CEOs anywhere in the world today. And they are Mariam El-Bacha, CEO of Cinepax. She's worked on, I think, pretty much every continent on Earth for a cinema, apart from Antarctica. I could be wrong, maybe Africa not. And secondly,
not Africa.
And not Africa. And Debbie Stanford Christensen as well, who's joining us from Novo in Dubai. Debbie is, of course, one of the top 30 most influential women in the Arab world in 2019, and she was Middle East Female CEO of the Year of 2018. So we are thrilled and very honored to have you both here today to come and talk to us. So Debbie will be joining us as soon as the web camera is activated. But Miriam, if we could begin with you, this tough issue of having to make difficult choices, you already faced that over a year ago when overnight Bollywood films could no longer be shown in Pakistani cinemas. Can you tell us briefly about that?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody can understand my English. Basically, we have been pretty much suffering losses for the last 14 months. In February last year, there was a terrorist attack that started the banning of movies in Pakistan of Indian origin, and that industry, Bollywood, for us represents approximately 60% of our box office revenue, which meant that from one night till another, we pretty much lost that same amount of money in box office. So we, in that sense, we have been exercising cost control measures for the last 14 months. We have renegotiating all our loans. We have renegotiating all our leases with our landlords. We have to, of course, in the end, we have to lay off our team and redesign the base structure of each cinema to make sure it adapt to having maybe 3 or 4 shows a day, having not having late shows and different things that allow us to spend less money in terms of electricity, camp charges, and common area charges for the malls, as well as the manpower that we need in each location. Because when you're not maximizing shows, you don't need that many people to run and cover those gaps. So that has been our life for the last 13 months and a half.
And then this happened where you go from only keeping 40% of your screens open to keeping none of your screens open. So how have you gone about closing down the cinemas completely?
Well, cinemas. In a way, fortunately, the government acted, and that was the first thing that they decided to close cinemas, which was strange because the malls were open up until last Saturday, but we were closed. So we were closed first for a week, and then the notification came that it needed to be shut down, everything. The good news about this was that it was a government notification that needs to be, that is compulsory. It was not a suggestion, and therefore it allowed us to go back to the landlords and say, hey, I need this for this time, and until we resume operations according to the government, we won't be able to pay rent, and everybody in a way understood the situation. So that started our journey of, actually our journey started when Bond got delayed. So once we knew Bond got delayed, we were holding certain amount of staff that we needed to run the operations for Having a Quiet Place, 2, Mulan, Bond, all the way up until Eid, because for us Eid is the busiest time of the year. It's like the Chinese New Year for China or all the Southeast Asian countries, and therefore it allowed us. We said, okay, if we are not going to have Bond, and this is going to get even worse, there's a very big chunk of our teams that particularly are the contractors. We call it contractuals, but it's like a part-timer for the rest of the world. The very big chunk of those, we are going to have to lay them off because the business is not going to be there. At that time, we were actually hoping that the business was only the issue of having certain amount of movies that were not going to be released. Reality is that we were really threading the idea of having to close down, which at the end we did. So that was the first measure we took, and then one of the things that I did was I converted out of that contractual base. There was a lot of people. We have a ratio of probably 10% full time and 90% part time. I converted a group of people. We converted approximately 21 people out of 130 contractuals. 21 became part-time permanent staff, and that meant that we were able to maintain a certain amount of people in the cinemas, a headcount that would allow us to start operations immediately when it is resumed, and also protect the staff that are really good and that we really didn't want to let them go. The contractual staff that we had to lay off, the 130 people that we laid off last week, had a written notification, have a written letter with a written promise that once we resume operations, they will be the first ones to be called back. So it's not solving the problem of not having a job, but eventually we will come back from this, and we have the commitment to recruit them again.
Okay.
The second thing that we have, the third thing we have done now, and this is something that I was working with my team and communicating it today with everybody else, is that all these full-time or permanent people that we have at the moment are going to be, we are thinking and we are envisioning that this is going to last until May, and therefore we won't have any revenues in April and May. And if that is the case, then we will need, we are devising a 50% salary reduction for all our permanent staff. If your 50% is lower than, with a cap to 50,000 rupees, which is like $320 in for you guys to think about. So anything lower than the $320, we are not going to reduce, because again, it's very limited. It's a very limited amount, and we can't reduce that. We don't feel that we want to reduce that. But for the top management and for the head of departments and certain level of management, we were able to.
While we see if we can get the guests on in the meantime, let's move on to the question and answer session. In fact, before we do that, Sperling, if I could turn to you to talk about a little bit about the NATO announcement that came this week in terms of, I know they've been very active in lobbying Congress for support, and Congress did pass the $2 trillion stimulus package. Where do cinemas find themselves in this?
Well, indeed, there was a stimulus package that was passed. That was $2 trillion. I think people are still wading through the thousands of pages of that document. It was certainly what you saw Adam Aron doing there was appealing to Congress by saying, look, we're the largest company in the business all over the world. So if we can't make it and we're firing or furloughing 26,000 workers and furloughing ourselves, nobody's going to be able to make it. You have to step in and help us out with at least some loan guarantees. That being last night, NATO also then put out a press release saying that this stimulus package, they have read it, they have been on top of it, they are applauding what the Senate has passed. Congress has U.S. House of Representatives has to pass it. It then has to go to the president for it to be signed. So it's not a done deal yet, but it's looking like it's being fast tracked. In the meantime, the National Association of Theater Owners, at least here in the United States, and this is why I wanted to highlight this, because every country will probably have an association, whether it's Ancine in Brazil or whether it's the UKCA in the UK, will have resources. And if you go to their website, natoonline.org, you'll see that they have resources, fact sheets for employees, fact sheets for employers, some questions and answers, where to find help. And they're being very proactive about reaching out to cinema operators and their employees to give them information, at least for North America.
Well, Spelling, just to come in on that, there's a lot of facts and information out there from the trade associations. I've been reading the Leisure Property Forum in the UK, and it may happen elsewhere. These are guaranteed loans. So, for example, on payroll in the UK, 80% may be covered by the government, essentially nationalising the payroll, but banks are still being very challenging towards companies who would like to raise some funding on the other 20% because they've got zero revenue. Where those points about it's loans, there's still liabilities, then that the detail needs to be worked through because there's still indebted operators out there as well. So I guess lots of work to do at a very challenging time for the operators.
Let's move on to some of the Q&As that have been pouring in. So we've had some good questions here. One of which is, do we have any official statement on studios on supportive exhibition? Well, we just saw one from Andrew Cripps, but obviously it's going to be different from each studio. Universal seems more willing to experiment with windows, whereas the likes of Warner's are so far not, and Disney are committing to moving their film titles. They've just advanced the Pixar one. Sperling, anything more to add on that?
No, I mean, certainly, I think if you look at what Universal did last Monday when they moved Trolls straight to VOD, premium VOD. And what some of the other studios have done post what Universal's announcement on Monday, they've been learning from one another as they go forward about making sure they're saying, hey, it's just XYZ title. It's just The Invisible Man, or it's just, the Camille Nanjiani film. Lionsgate, for instance, was very upfront by saying, we like the theatrical space. We're going to stay in the theatrical space. Our movie had been released. It's not making any money. It's already out. There won't be an audience for it, but we are fully back. We will be back in cinemas with those films that we have not yet released.
Yep. Oh, that is encouraging. So next question is, will COVID enclosures have a major effect on any virtual print fees? Are they going to be extended or not recouped in full? Sperling, you probably have more insights on the VPF contracts than I do.
Pass. No, I think there is no way to know that. Certainly, in many of the VPFs have already ended, especially those that were what were called 5 for 5. They lasted 5 years. Many of them ended December 31st, 2019. Those that were on recoupment, they do have a time frame, but if there is no time frame for that, then recoupment, it doesn't matter. But most of them are on time frames. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of negotiating on the back end of this to extend that time frame by the number of months that theaters were closed. Studios have been very unwilling to renegotiate their VPF agreements for obvious reasons. They don't want to open up that Pandora's.
Tell us about the brand.
What's been happening our end? Well, I mean, I feel very fortunate in terms of what's been happening our end, because obviously I'm hearing so many very, very sad stories from across the globe. I mean, we're very, very fortunate that our shareholders, the Elan Group, have been absolutely supportive to all of the employees right from the get-go. So they already had put in place a crisis management team. We were in contact every step of the way with the employees to make sure that they had a comfort and assurance that the company was going to stand by them. We reorganized working schedules, remote working, paid leaves. And so, our story is a very positive story. And I feel very thankful that we have the shareholders that we do.
What about staff?
So the staff, we have not furloughed any staff. We have kept all of our staff on board. Right now, many of them are taking paid leave. Some have overtime, some have public holidays that they haven't used. So basically all of our cinema staff, via a very small skeleton, who are making sure that all of the technical equipment is being maintained during this closure period. So all of our staff are in full employment. We have not terminated or furloughed any of our employees. As I said, we've put a lot of staff on paid leaves. We've reorganized working schedules, and we've reorganized remote working as well. And it seems to be working very well so far.
What's the plan moving forward?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Right. Moving forward, we expect to retain this status quo. What we're doing right now is making sure that we are engaging with the employees on a daily basis, whether that's through a video call. We have set everybody up on Microsoft Teams, so that we are able to interact with everybody on a daily basis, either via computer or via a laptop or via phone. So keeping the engagement going, giving that reassurance. We have some fun trivia. We've launched something called Novo's Got Talent, and it was something that we were going to launch anyway, and we've just brought it forward, where we're really making sure that we keep all of our employees positive. We're engaging them in online training programs.
So we're maintaining a regular interaction at every level, right from the highest level, right the way through to the grounds, the staff from the cinema on the ground, and maintaining a positive atmosphere, positive mind. Obviously, times like this, anxiety sets in with people. People are concerned about their jobs and their families, and I think for us, it's very important for people to remember that a lot of the employees that work with us, they're all full-time employees. We don't have part-time employees like perhaps other parts of the world. And a lot of our employees are far away from their families. They're coming from the Philippines, from Nepal, from Kenya, from Myanmar, from India. So they're already far away from their families. So, Novo is our family here. We need to make sure that they have that reassurance, that comfort, that support, that community spirit, that unity, and that we stay strong together. So it's making sure that we have constant engagement on a daily basis with every single member of our team.
Right. Thank you very much, Debbie. I do appreciate you sharing that, and apologies about the technical issues that we had earlier. So this is what happens when you're doing live webinars. But those are great insights, and that's a really strong message about the importance of communicating with the staff. I don't know, Mariam, if you're still on the line, if you can hear us, if you have any final words to add to that.
No, Debbie always speaks very eloquently, and I think she has summarized and made us all take notes on all the activities and measures that she's taking and putting in place.
No, well, we admire you both, and we want to thank you both for joining us today, despite the technical issues that we had. That was some good insights, and above all, I know that this is a very challenging topic of speaking about people's livelihoods and how to make these difficult decisions that impact not just them, but their families and the communities. So thank you both for taking the time of speaking to us about this. So we are running out of time. Unfortunately, we do want to keep this to 60 minutes. We did have, appreciate the questions that were sent in, and we're going to keep the chat forum open for another 30 minutes for anybody who wants to hang around and just change. Sperling, final words from you?
Well, the only thing I'll point out is, well, first off, just to end on the staffing, every company, whether you're in cinema or whether you're a car dealership, it doesn't matter. If you have zero income, there's no way for you. Where do you get money from to pay employees if you have zero money coming in and nothing in the bank? They're almost left with no option other than to furlough themselves and their employees. That said, there are a number of questions here. Might I suggest posting some of these questions and to the attendees? If you post these in the community section, and it's community.cjcinemasummit.com, we will be answering them or finding answers for them both in that form, and then we'll bring them to the next summit.
Great.
So that's really all I would say.
Thanks, brilliant. Rob, any final thoughts or comments?
I think it's just to keep the dialogue going, but I know that we had over 600 registered delegates last week. I guess with the technical issues today, Patrick, that's from, 50 countries, 390 companies. That's an amazing contribution from everyone. And we're all coming at it from different points and different parts of experience. So there's no one size catches all in any territory. And I've been working with Dentons this week on some sort of generic policies and pieces around property, especially. So we'll put some updates up on the community site this week with regard to that. But fascinated with the staffing contribution from Debbie and from Mariam this week. So great from them and from Andrew.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Rob. And just in conclusion, it's very easy to despair and to see nothing but the darkness that remains when the projector and the auditorium lights switched off. We really are in a quiet place when we are in the cinema today. But we are seeing hope. And it's not just what we're seeing in China with cinemas reopening. It's not just the stimulus packages that are being passed to support small, medium, and large businesses, as well as individuals. But above all, what we're seeing in our daily kind of review of news and feeds and comments is that people are coming together, and we as a community and as a cinema family seem to be coming together to exchange ideas, offer each other support, and we want to keep doing that. Obviously, the technology, as we know, isn't always perfect, and we couldn't get everything working as well as we'd hoped today. So we appreciate your indulgence. We promise that we will work harder at it to get an even better presentation. I'd like to finish by thanking again the amazing Mariam and Debbie for sharing their thoughts and coming on today. I'm sure this isn't the first, isn't going to be the last time we hear from you, but we do appreciate this time. So we're going to end our session here, but we're going to keep the community alive by keeping the chat function open for another 30 minutes. So any of you who want to stay on, please do that. And for the rest of you, we hope you're well wherever you are. Stay safe, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
And we will be answering some of these questions.
And we will be answering some of the questions. The questions aren't going away. So thank you very much, everybody, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.